Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you on. So, you have a couple companies, right? So, the first one I just want to get some info on from you is please tell me about Empathy First Media, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I am the VP of inbound marketing at Empathy First Media. The CEO's name is Daniel Lynch. So we are a full-scale agency. We do everything from SEO, pay-per-click marketing. Our biggest undertaking lately has actually been PR or public relations for
Cool.
various clients. So we are a full-scale agency. So that's one whole side of what I do.
hmm Yeah, and then the other side is a company called AI Insider Tips, and that's the one that we'll probably be talking about predominantly today.
Correct. Yeah, that's just kind of a passion project of mine right now. And it's starting to scale, pretty heavily here as I focus a lot of my efforts on YouTube. But AIinsidertips.com, essentially it's an AI tips and tricks, reviews, news site. I have a YouTube channel, growing that pretty heavily here, focusing on AI tutorials, chat GBT, new AI tools, new AI news, et cetera, et cetera. Just kind of trying to capitalize on the world of AI, and I offer AI consulting as well, which is all part of that. So I'll come in, charge by the hour for small to medium sized businesses to give them my best tips and tricks on what AI tools you should use, how you can maximize efficiency with Chat GBT, and things
hmm
of that nature. So that's been going pretty well so far.
That's great, and we can start there too. So what are some of these specific AI tools that you're using to help scale your business and marketing efforts in general?
Yeah, so I think whenever I get asked this question, the first thing I always tell people is what's your strategy, right? There's a million AI tools, so you need to figure out what's your
Sure.
use case and what's your strategy for the AI tools that you're going to use. Obviously, there's ChatGPT, and I don't know if you're familiar, but ChatGPT just paused the Plus subscriptions about a week ago. So I have been a member of ChatGPT Plus. I was on it once it first came out, but they actually paused that. That was actually my recommendation number one with the evolution of GBTs now available, is to get in ChatGPT Plus. But outside of ChatGPT Plus, in terms of SEO and content writing, there's a tool I use called SEOwriting.ai. I've tested dozens and dozens of these AI content tools. The Jasper, I'm sure you're familiar with Jasper. They were kind of an early player.
hmm
Write Sonic, Writer, Copy AI, Copymatic. There's dozens of these AI writing tools that I've tested, but SEOwriting.ai is my number one for long form content and SEO. There's dozens of other tools out there. Fireflies AI is a great AI note taker that I'll throw into client meetings where it transcribes meetings,
hmm
sends me the reports. So there's other tools out there now besides Fireflies AI. But those are a couple off the top of my head that I can think of. And then there's other LLMs, large language models like Claude 2 developed by Anthropic. There's Google Bard. There's, Dolly 3, which is built into Chat GBT Plus. You can also go to the Bing image creator to get it for free. So those are just some off the top of my head without going into the nitty gritty and
hmm
dozens of tools that I'm in every day.
And we use Firefly.
Oh,
It's
I love it.
actually pretty seamless. It's a lot more impressive than maybe I was giving it credit for at first. And is that a normal experience where people feel, you know, obligated to use this sort of stuff and then have to, I don't know, change their perspective on it a little bit? I mean, maybe what was your experience in that
You're
realm
talking
of
just
things?
Fireflies or just AI tools in general?
AI tools in general and how that they kind of force people to change their misconceptions about it a little bit.
Yeah, I just think, from a high level, there's always been, hesitation with AI tools. And I think they're only getting better and better as time goes on. And I'll tell you this, talking to small and medium sized business owners, what really gets them listening is when I say, what if I told you I could save you hours of your day? I could potentially, cut low level employees if that's a big expense, right? Paying
Mm-hmm.
someone 40, 50K for customer service and data entry, that's going to get people to listen up. So once you explain to these business owners and people in general that AI can not only solve efficiency problems, but it can also make, your ad dollars or whatever your marketing dollars that you're spending on your staff or whatever your business operations are, you can stretch those dollars for more.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of these specific other chat GPT tips and tricks that people can use right now to improve the user experience? Because at least from the conversations I've had in my personal experience, I feel like that is the number one with a bullet priority. It is user experience. It converts. It's good customer service. I mean, it's the one solving a problem. It keeps people coming back. So how can Chat GPT and maybe even other AI tools help with the user experience?
Yeah, so ChatGPT, let's back up here. So they just launched these GBTs. So GBTs are these custom AI agents that OpenAI just launched during their dev day, which was during the first week in November. But you have to be a member of ChatGPT Plus to use this. And why this is so revolutionary, in my opinion, with these GBTs is that you can tailor a specific chat version of ChatGPT for a use case. So you can create a customer service GBT that just focuses on customer service. You can create an email marketing GBT that just focuses on email marketing, a web design GBT, a copywriting GBT. And why this is so revolutionary is you can develop these custom instructions inside each GBT. That way it keeps learning from the previous inputs that you had before. So one example I actually use is a content creator GBT. I created this myself. I have a whole YouTube tutorial that shows how to create a custom GBT. And I designed the instructions. You're familiar with Alex Hermosi at all? He's a big, content creator.
No, I'm not. I'd love to hear more about it.
So Alex Hermosi's a big content creator, self-help, entrepreneurship. So essentially what I did is I pulled Alex Hermosi's top 50 tweets, top 50 LinkedIn posts, and I put it into the custom GBT. And I said, hey, analyze this content from Alex Hermosi. Here's my website. Use my own language. Rewrite this so you're not copying the exact, content that he creates. And then at scale, you can create, weeks, months in advance of content for Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever your platforms are. But that's just one use case, if you see where I'm going.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I mean, I think that's pretty impressive in how you can use it to kind of be inspired by without totally ripping off the way that humans can, I mean, I think that humans, especially nowadays, can be inspired by other ones and don't have to steal people's words and ideas verbatim, so I think there's something pretty valuable there. How do you end up staying up to date on AI without getting so overwhelmed? I mean, because at least even just from my little knowledge and even less experience, the growth rate is moving at an exponential rate. It is not just upward. It is upward and onward fast.
It's like Moore's law times 10, bro.
Absolutely. And so I'm curious how you stay up to date on it without getting overwhelmed, or if there may be some good resources for our listeners to follow.
Yeah, obviously AI insider tips on YouTube. Had to throw that one out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But number one's actually Matt Wolf. So Matt Wolf, he's a big figurehead in the AI community. He runs a tool or website called futuretools.io. And he has this website curated by the latest news. He also has the latest AI tools that are upvoted by the community. So the community can go in and test these, upvote, downvote. So you don't have to look through all the hundreds of tools. You can filter it by, hey, this tool's, upvoted by the community. So Matt Wolf, futuretools.io. Howfinity is another YouTube channel I follow. So really what it comes down to is finding probably two or three creators. They typically make a video a week so you can stay updated on the latest news, the latest tools. Don't just go to Twitter or LinkedIn or TikTok and listen to these schmucks that talk about like ditch ChatGPT, 10 AI tools that you can 10x revenue and get rid of ChatGPT. You know exactly what I'm talking about probably when I say that. But yeah. Matt Wolf, Future Tools, and then also Howfinity are probably the top two that I listen to.
Awesome. Good recommendations. Do you think so you mentioned part of this conversation we're going to talk about SEO, SEM, PPC, and you mentioned that there are some really good AI tools to help write content for SEO. So I guess my question is, do you see or think that AI has kind of killed SEO in that aspect, or is it still taking advantage of it? I mean, what's kind of that relationship look like?
Yeah, so the whole SEO is dead argument has come back again after, every year it gets brought up. I've heard that for about 20 years being in the SEO space. It's like SEO's dead, SEO's dying. It's always something. But with the latest iteration of AI, I'm going to be completely honest with you, Alex. I think people are really rethinking their AI or SEO strategies with Google's new search generative experience. Are you familiar with this? SGE. So what that is you have to check it right now. It's not on by default in a private browser, but you have to go in and check it within your search lab settings on Google. But if you search for something, what the SGE does is it pulls in AI results from, maybe 5 to 10 given sources in a list versus a typical SERP or search engine results page where it's, 5 to 8, 9 results of 8 different articles that you can click on. So where this is going, in my opinion, is I think informational content is on the chopping block. So you think of like a TripAdvisor, 10 best things to do in New York City. Well, with search generative experience, it's going to pull in information from 5 different sources listed out in a bullet list, not linked to any articles. Whereas before, you'd get 8 results with TripAdvisor and all these other travel websites that would rank for content like 10 best things to do in New York City. So I think in terms of informational content, I think content creators and SEO people are going to have to really think hard about that strategy. I think for commercial and transactional content, so best flights, best credit cards, anything with commercial intent, I think AI is not going to be as prevalent as people say it is because the consumer is always going to want to compare options. They're not going to want to trust an AI generated response from Google on the 5 best credit cards for travel. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is, at least from my experience, I think there is a bit of like a whiplash effect that I get when I read an article and then at the end of the article, it says, part of this article was generated by ChatGPT and AI powered tools. And I will be honest, I feel a bit bamboozled in that process because I already feel like something, maybe I'm not, jiving with the syntax or something like that. Do you think that is a feeling that will be consistent? Or are people just going to essentially become numb to that feeling? I mean, I'm curious, even your experience with that, because every now and then I'll get on a website and then at the end it'll tell me it was partly written by AI, and it kind of feels different. I don't know, really. The best way to describe it is whiplash is the best example I can come up with. I'm curious if that's temporary, what your feelings on that, any comments on that sort of experience?
Yeah, I do, Alex. And I actually have a funny story about that I'll bring up after in a little bit here. But what I mean by, you asked about, is it written by AI when they had the little disclaimers, right? Is that what you mean? Okay. So there's actually a company called bankrate.com, which is owned by Red Ventures. So Red Ventures is a huge conglomerate that owns the Points Guy, Bankrate, CNET, all these big websites. And there was a big story several months ago where Bankrate's in what's called the YMYL niche, your money, your life. So health, finance, legal. This is big in the SEO world, YMYL. And so when something's written by AI in the YMYL niche, typically it wouldn't rank because Google is looking for the actual experience, and you need the experience in your content. The author needs to be credible. But where I'm going with the story is Bankrate wrote an article. It was about insurance or some financial topic. And at the very beginning, it said this article was generated by AI. Well, of course, because Bankrate's such a big site, it went public, it went viral. All these big news outlets started to pick it up and said, why would this Bankrate use AI to write articles about insurance, blah, blah, blah. And so I was reading that and I'm like, yeah, why would you do that? But at the end of the day, I think that was a big chess move by Bankrate because think about all the backlinks that they picked up from the New York Post, the New York Times, LA Tribune. I mean, there were dozens of these 95 DR websites that linked to the story. So from a user perspective, let me back up. No, I do not want to see AI generated content in a YMYL niche, health, finance, legal, anything that impacts my life decisions. Now, if it's in like a niche like sports betting or, some other niche that's not really impactful to your everyday life, that doesn't bother me too much, to be honest with you. But if it's in that YMYL niche set, then yeah, I'm pretty bothered by it.
Awesome. That's a very insightful answer, honestly, and backed up with a very interesting anecdote in that process. Can you explain a bit your experience, even more broadly in SEO, SEM, PPC, or any sort of experience in digital marketing you have, maybe to get up to this point as well?
Absolutely. So I went to the University of Northern Iowa, just undergrad there. My first job out of school was actually at Meredith Corporation. Are you familiar with Meredith Corporation?
No. Please tell me more.
Yeah. So it's Dotdash Meredith now. They got bought out about 2 or 3 years ago, but they own People Magazine, Investopedia, all these high-level media brands. Better Homes and Gardens, one of their flagship titles.
Yeah.
So I was running ads for People Magazine, Better Homes and Gardens, managing multi-million-dollar ad budgets, Google Ads, Bing Ads. We use third-party tools, Google Search Ads 360, just in the weeds paid search tools. But I was doing that at 23, 24 years old for about a year and a half. So that was my first really intro experience into high level was paid search. From there, I got kind of bored with it. Wasn't a big fan of the corporate world, if I'm being honest. Started learning SEO on the side. I didn't know anything about SEO. I started this blog and started to figure out, well, why is this ranking here? Why is this site ranking? What do I need to do to get my site up above this in Google? And I was just kind of asking these questions from trial and error. Started a blog, and then all of a sudden, an associate reached out to me, started this affiliate marketing company. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's hop on board. So I quit after about a year and a half. Went into the affiliate marketing SEO world for about 3 years. And I still do a lot of affiliate marketing now in the home technology and AI space. But from there on my own for about 3 years, I was actually contacted by a company called Three Ships. I doubt you're familiar with Three Ships. They're kind of a smaller company, but they operate some big boy SEO sites. So thisoldhouse.com, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're a huge SEO site in the home improvement space. So I did SEO for them for about 6 or 7 months, working with 80, 85, 90 DRDA sites going against Forbes, US News, and the SERP. So this was very competitive. So I got that experience. But again, I love working for myself. It was very hard for me to fathom working for someone again. So I went back on my own. And today, ever since March, I've still been doing my own thing with client work, affiliate marketing, and now AI stuff.
No, that's amazing. I appreciate I appreciate the variety, that you've been able, the amount of tools that you've been able to put in your toolbox over time to be able to sustainably do your own thing a little bit. I think that's something commendable. What are some even more, I'm curious now your opinion on SEO, SEM, PPC trends in general looking forward. We kind of played with that topic a little bit earlier in the show in regard to AI. I'm curious, maybe in general, where you see that relationship going in the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah. So in terms of pay-per-click, I'll be fully transparent. We do offer social media pay-per-click. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn ads. That's not my expertise. We have people that focus on that. My expertise is more on the search engine marketing side. So Google and Bing.
Gotcha.
So some trends that I see from there, I don't think pay-per-click's ever going to die. And when you think about what is Bing doing, so obviously Bing's Google's number one competitor. What are they doing? Well, they integrated AI into their search engine. And so this is really taking Google by storm, because for those that don't know, Google's revenue from search ads is about 70%, maybe a little more than that. So you think about how important search ads are to Google's business model. So Google was really scared by Bing integrating AI in their search. So now that brings the question of, well, what is Google going to do to retaliate this? Because the same way they've been doing this for 4 search ads in a given SERP for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, that's probably not going to be the same. So in my opinion, what might happen, as I brought up SGE, search generative experience, before earlier in the episode, I think what we may see is Google's going to maybe place 1 or 2 giant ads in an AI generated result and charge a higher CPC or cost per click for those top 2 tier placements versus the traditional 4 placements that they have right now, where depending on the niche, depending on the industry, your CPCs vary. I think in general for e-commerce, pay-per-click's not always the best option, regardless of what an agency will tell you. I've had consultations and calls with people in the past who do e-commerce supplement sales, and they're spending $50,000 a month on AdWords, and they're barely breaking even, and they're not generating a profit. Well, why is that? Number one, extremely competitive. Look at the amount of money that Amazon's spending on pay-per-click and other, big brands on Google Shopping. So it's very difficult to compete. So I see that trend in that regard, where it's going to be more high ticket lead gen focusing on ads versus e-commerce. I don't think it's a very good idea for e-commerce brands to focus on paid search. Now, paid social, I agree there should be some ad dollars there because it's interest based, but I do not agree that a lot of e-commerce brands should put their ad dollars towards search engine marketing.
Fascinating. I appreciate the candidness, of kind of where to stay and where to navigate to. Are there specific differences between, when marketing strategy should be used in terms of, you kind of play with that a little bit in the previous answer of social media ads versus paid ads. I'm curious, what are some of the differences and when each marketing strategy should be used?
Yep. The number one thing I always tell people when they're debating like paid social versus paid search is intent driven. So if your business is intent driven, always think lead gen. So local plumber near me, local tire shop near me.
Sure.
That is intent driven. Paid search pulls right into that wheelhouse. When you're talking paid social, it's interest driven, not intent driven. It's interest driven. So someone who's interested in supplements, someone who's interested in Taylor Swift, interested in a sports team, while they're scrolling through their social media feed on Instagram or Facebook, if you're interested in something, you're more likely to engage on social media because you're being targeted by your interests, versus on search, you have an actual purpose of why you're going to the search engine. You have intent of typing something in. And that's why I do not agree with display ads a lot on Google. I don't agree with performance max campaigns on Google, because those are more interest-based. If you're going to do any interest-based marketing, you need to put those ad dollars towards paid social and not paid search.
Mm-hmm. I think that's extremely valid, honestly. I mean, just from my experience, anytime I'm looking for more info on something, usually it'll kick back a social media page at me, especially if it is a person. I think there's a lot of insight.
You can
there.
also get more bang for your buck on social media too, typically when you run ads versus paid search, especially in high ticket niches. I mean, some clicks can go 5, 10, 15 bucks a click. So, I mean, your budget can be wiped out pretty quickly. So you got to keep that in mind too.
Mm-hmm. Are there specific resources that you look toward for SEO, SEM, PPC, info and news?
Yeah, so SEO, Income School, I've been following them for 5 years. They're pretty good with content SEO. I was actually just on their podcast that got released about a month ago, so that was like pretty rewarding for me. I was like, wow, they actually made it on my brand's podcast.
From fan to peer,
yeah, for sure is cool. But Income School, Neil Patel's obviously intro level. One for PPC that I follow quite a bit is called Surfside PPC. They cover everything from paid search, paid social, even some SEO stuff. Ahrefs, they're a big tool in the SEO space. They have a good YouTube channel too. So those are some off the top of my head.
No, that's great. And we're covering a wide swath of topics today, right? And so just to kind of maybe begin to come to a close, I'm curious if you have any advice to those who haven't taken the dip in the AI pond, or just might already keep AI dismissed in general.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So number one, Alex, I'm going to be honest, is don't be scared of AI. And it sounds obvious, but a lot of people I talk to, they're too scared of it, it's all about the unknown. They fear the unknown. They're too scared. They don't know what they're getting into. So when you're too scared, you're just not going to dive in. Well, that's a very big mistake in my opinion, because if you're not at least diving into the basics of ChatGPT, Google Bard, Claude, and these basic AI tools, you're going to fall behind very quickly. I present on AI, and one slide I always show is the scene from Moneyball where Billy Bean comes up with his hands like this, and he's talks to the old scout. And he's like, adapt or die. And he turns around and walks away. And that's exactly what I see for AI right now. It's really adapt or die. That's number one. Number two is also ideation. If you don't even know what to use AI for, always ask AI for ideas. AI is one of the best tools that you can use for ideation. So if I'm up here creating a blog post, creating a YouTube video, and I don't know where to start, but I know the general idea, I can ask AI, hey, ChatGPT, or hey, Google Bard, what are 5 ideas for this video? What are 5, topic ideas that I could do for XYZ? So ideation should always be the number one thing for AI tools, that if you don't know what to do, always ask AI for ideas.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing you say, and part of what I've heard you say in general earlier in the episode, is that AI tools, ChatGPT and the like, are better for beginning a project than editing or completing a project. Correct. Right? Ideation. Okay. No, that's again extremely insightful. I know personally I've used some of this stuff for exactly that, and I think people, in the creative space, I know that people are worried that they will take jobs essentially. Is that a worry of yours? I mean, the closest answer I've gotten was from a gentleman that said it's not AI versus people; it's people who use AI versus people who don't. And
100% agree.
Okay, can you expand on that a little bit?
100% agree. I think AI is, at this point in time, is not there yet. DALL-E 3 is very good for image generation. There's some AI video tools. Are you familiar with Runway ML? I would look into Runway ML. I forgot to mention that earlier, but that's a big AI video generator tool right now. So you mentioned about taking jobs. No, I think, like I just said, if you're in the weeds of AI and you just like you're dabbling, you at least understand what's going on, you're trying and testing, you're failing, you're going to be far more ahead than the average person. Because I'll tell you this, Alex, based on people I talk to in real life, I would say about 90% of people have somewhat not touched AI at all and are kind of scared of it. There's a very small percent that have actually dove in and tried things and tested things. So being in that small minority of at least being in the AI tools, knowing what's going on, at least having a grasp of some news, some updates, some understanding, you're going to be far more ahead than the average person who has no idea what to do, is just scared and takes a very reactionary approach where, oh my God, AI is going to take my job. Like, what do I do? And then when that day comes, they're screwed.
Because they're losing that opportunity to the person who did have that experience.
And I think by human nature too, a lot of us are designed to be reactionary instead of proactive. So if you take that proactive approach and just dive into ChatGPT, dive into Google Bard, you don't need to write scripts. You don't need to write codes. Just start prompting things with basic prompts that you would use in your everyday business use case. See what it comes with. You don't like it, redo the prompts, create a GPT, just dive in and start learning, and you'll be ahead of 95% of people.
And part of what I've heard in circles is that it's very closer to the invention of the internet than it is, or at least the proliferation of the internet, than it is this brand new, learning machine, that has kind of a weird connotation to it. But again, that's how it was explained to me, is like, it's actually a lot closer to people who are learning how to use the internet and people who are not, and those two camps. Is that something that you see?
100% agree. I think AI reminds me of the internet. You look at all the news articles that were out where it said the internet's not going to go anywhere, blah, blah, blah. Very similar trends today with AI and ChatGPT. And here's one for you too, Alex. I see a very similar trend to cryptocurrency. Now, what do I mean by that? So I see ChatGPT as like the Bitcoin of the industry. I see Google Bard as the Ethereum of the industry. And then there's all these other altcoins and there's all these other AI tools that are all just noise. There's hundreds and hundreds of AI tools where, oh my God, there's 20 tools that do the same thing, right? Same with crypto. There's 100 different altcoins where we don't know who's behind them. We don't know if they're worth anything. So I think crypto is kind of a good comparison too to AI.
I could agree with you. And look, when the internet came out, I was young, but I do know that, at least looking back on it, a lot of people called it a fad. And it's fascinating to even think that people dismissed it so easily. And I think that we'll feel the same way about this stuff in 20 years,
I agree. I think it'll just be so prevalent. Elon Musk has talked about this, Sam Altman. They've all talked about how AI is just going to be so prevalent where it's not even going to be, we're going to be talking about ChatGPT like it's hot news. We're just going to be pulling up our phones or pulling up our computers and just using it like we do with text or social media in our everyday life.
And cryptocurrency is a much more interesting comparison. Because I'll be honest, I mean, that's been around maybe not as long as the internet, but pretty close, honestly. At least the idea has, and it still hasn't really gotten over that zeitgeist hump, if you know what I'm saying, where certain people know what it is, but it hasn't made that kind of crossover appeal into any person you run into knows what it means. So I'm very interested where AI goes, and if those are kind of like the endpoints of the scale,
Yeah, for sure. I think AI is a lot more sustainable than crypto is. Obviously,
I would probably agree.
I'm going to be transparent on that. I buy Bitcoin every day, but that defeats the point. I think AI is going to be a lot more sustainable than crypto is, for sure.
Awesome. Well, before we wrap up, Ryan, I always ask my guest the exact same last question. This has been a wonderful conversation, by the way, and I'm curious what sort of hobbies and interests you do in your free time to curb the stress and anxiety that can come from working in the e-commerce industry.
Yeah, so I'm a workaholic. I'm gonna be 100% honest. I find joy in work a lot, which is not too healthy. But in addition to that, I used to work in the golf industry, so I like golfing outside of work. I've also gotten into UFC and MMA a lot. Not myself, I don't train myself, but I just like the chess match that goes into an MMA, where it's grappling, striking. There's all the recruiting, the scouting that goes into it. I just have started to enjoy that too.
No, that's amazing. Well, good luck to you. Thank you. This has been an extremely informative conversation for me, at the very least. And until next time, Ryan, thanks.
Yeah, Alex, appreciate you having me on.